It's Cartoon Hangout, whoa, with Archaic King as your host. It's time to review some great cartoons, from Craig of the Creek to Scooby-Doo. Hello, lords and ladies, welcome back to Cartoon Hangout, your place for all things cartoon.
Episode 20, The Return of the Alchemist, is a really good episode that serves wonderfully as the penultimate episode of the season. All that's left is the season finale. I can't wait to see how it ends.
Many months later.
Hey, lords and ladies. So, I suppose it would be a bit of an understatement to say that this review is kinda late. It's hard to say why it took this long, other than the sheer power of my own procrastination, which got tangled up, pardon the expression, with the severe depression I was going through in the early parts of 2018. It got so bad, I took a break from the channel. I got a little better and came back a few months ago, but obviously the long break just made it harder to get back on my feet. I still haven't caught up on any of the shows I stopped reviewing, but I'm trying to do that now. But enough with that melodrama. Let's actually get to the episode at hand, the finale, Secret of the Sundrop. It's been a while, but I don't think I forgot too much that happened prior to this episode. Varian went to the dark side and was plotting something, and that something comes to fruition in the most 4D chess kind of way. Seriously, little guy made me so proud with all his little schemes. Rapunzel makes one move, and he's 2 ahead of her. She thinks she's 2 moves ahead of him. He's actually 4 ahead of her. It was so much fun to watch. And honestly, there's nothing more fun than a villain who is, in his own way, the hero of his story. Varian just wants to free his father.
And after you freed your father?
After? Oh, well, I'm afraid Corona will pay for turning their backs on me.
Oh, and get revenge on all of Corona for ignoring him. Okay, so that part isn't so good, but most of what he says in this episode is pretty right. Poor guy did get ignored, and no one came to help him or his father. Luckily, when his plans do unravel, as most villains' plans do, there does seem to be some help planned for him from the king and the princess. As for the rest of the story, it's going to be hard for me to really talk about everything. It is an hour-long finale, after all. Okay, so despite the tone of this episode certainly being on the serious side of things, it does make room for some humor. A lot of which, well, most of which, is really great. Lines like this.
Are you ready? Nope, not in any way. I'll take that as a yes.
Or even this.
Listening to Pete play for that long wasn't easy, but, I took one for the team.
Oh, man, that sounds really rough. I feel sorry for you. By the way,
I fell out of a tower!
Really made the episode for me. So, while I wasn't biting my nails at what would happen next, I was chuckling to myself at the fine writing this show has. The musical, smack dab in the middle of the episode, was also pretty good. A real keeper, that one. I enjoyed seeing all the characters get in on it, because this really is a huge climactic moment for them. The end of the road, and all that. I also love that it went back and forth between the villain and the heroes, basically singing the same thing about being as ready as they ever will be. It's good stuff. Not to mention the action scenes were nothing to blow your nose at. The show isn't maybe as finely animated as a purely action-oriented cartoon would be, but it does well enough, and the battle against Varian and robots was really entertaining to watch. He'd made corrections to them, maybe his plan all along, that made them much more difficult to defeat. But the hero's strategy make up for that. Moving on, I'm glad the king went to save his wife alongside Rapunzel. They could have easily made him stay behind or join the battle, but they chose to depict a very brave man and father. Not many shows still do that, let alone one where the main focus is a female character. Speaking of that, one theme that is prevalent in Tangled is this idea of being yourself and not letting others decide what you can do. It's pretty overt in this episode, being in one of the songs and in a lot of what the characters do and say. Now, as I get older, I tend to side with the adults or the authority figures more. So a lot of what Rapunzel's father does or says just really makes more sense to me than anything that Rapunzel is saying or doing. I think, personally, there are limits to the theme that Tangled has embraced and is showing off, but I can't necessarily find too much fault in it. It's at least a positive one, and the show does go out of its way to also point out that there isn't anything wrong with wanting to care about your loved ones, even if at times it can be stifling. I really appreciate that they show a counterpoint, a counterpoint of view, other than just saying, this is the only direction, this is the only path that one can take. I think that's smart writing, to not just have one opinion and show that that's the only one you can have. A lot of fiction doesn't do that anymore these days. If the writer has a viewpoint, that is the correct viewpoint. No one else's viewpoints will be considered or shown off. And in a lot of ways, that can be seen as sort of political propaganda. But I'm glad that Tangled, the series, at least shows different viewpoints and doesn't necessarily say, this one's right, this one's wrong. Good stuff. In the end, though, it seems Rapunzel's destiny does lie beyond the walls of Corona. And what better reason than that is there to leave your home? At least better than the overused concept of, I'm a princess, but I just want to explore, that you see a lot these days. So, while Season 1 does come to a close, they're obviously seeding more things to come. Personally, I would have preferred a bit more of closure to the plot this season, but since they had already announced a Season 2 before Season 1 even premiered, I can kind of let it go. Obviously, it's more like Season 1 and Season 2 are like Part 1 and Part 2, instead of how it usually goes with a show where it's like, Season 1 has a plot, the finale ends it, and then maybe some seeds that were planted somewhere earlier, maybe they'll come to fruition in Season 2, or Season 2 begins a whole new plot. That's obviously not how it's going to go. It's clear that they had planned this out Season 1, Season 2, or maybe when they knew that they were getting a Season 2, they were like, well, okay, cool, we can leave the Season 1 finale a little bit more open to lead into Season 2. Personally, I just can't wait to see who the mystery person is, with the sword made out of, I guess, the spikes, or why Rapunzel needs to go on some quest. You know, what is this destiny? Who decided that this would be her destiny? What is going on? Hopefully it doesn't take me another 7 months to find out. Thanks for watching, and take care.